All right, this is a very important update for those living in portions of Indiana and much of Ohio. A severe weather outbreak looks likely for tomorrow, and this looks likely to impact portions of eastern Indiana and the state of Ohio. There's a moderate risk in place by the SPC with the potential for strong tornadoes, also the potential for 70-mile-per-hour winds and very large hail. In this video, we are simply going to break down everything that you need to know about this system. All right, it's April Fool's Day, 4:07 p.m. Welcome to another update of Great Lakes weather. Again, this is a pretty significant update with regards to this severe weather setup. It is not an April Fool's Day joke. This is serious. So we're going to get right to it, dive right into this upcoming setup, okay? So let's start with the day one outlook that is currently ongoing across portions of Indiana and Ohio. There is potential for severe weather across portions of southern Indiana and southern Ohio tonight, with a possible moving MCS into this area, mesoscale convective system, just a line of thunderstorms, making its way through portions of that region. There is tornado potential with this, as well as damaging wind potential and hail. So that is something we want to be watching out for. South of Indianapolis, south of Columbus, you might see the potential for some tornadoes. Likely those tornadoes will not be very strong, but it looks to be focused across portions of Indiana, Ohio, damaging wind potential and the potential for large hail. But this threat is not as significant as the threat that we have coming for the Great Lakes region tomorrow. Tomorrow, we have a moderate risk that was just issued by the SPC, which is pretty impressive given the fact that the threat that they put out previously, prior to the arrival of this outlook, was all the way down in Kentucky and Tennessee. There has been a dramatic shift in the models over the past, I'd say, 24 hours or so. And what we have seen is that the low pressure system that is bringing this is actually starting to shift back to the west and curve further to the north. And when that happens, you get much more of the warm sector pushed into portions of the Great Lakes region, which is why this area is now under the gun for a greater threat for severe thunderstorms. Moderate risk is a level 4 out of 5 risk. It is not too common for the Great Lakes region, so it's definitely something we want to take seriously. So, tornado potential, 15%. This is the probability for tornadoes within 25 miles of a point, and when you think about the size of tornadoes, that is actually 15% is actually a larger risk than is usual. Okay, so 15% tornado risk. That hatched area indicates the potential for EF2 to EF5 tornadoes. Some strong long track tornadoes could occur with this setup. Okay, I'm not sugarcoating anything. There's the potential for that there with the environment that is in place. Okay, this also extends down into portions of Kentucky, Tennessee, and also I wouldn't be surprised to see portions of central and east Indiana in that zone as well. Latest HRRR model seems to take a little bit of a shift further to the west. It's kind of been trending a little bit that way as well, and further north. So we want to watch out for that potential extending a little bit further to the west as well, and I think the SPC has highlighted that potential back in this region as well. So that's tornado potential, 15% hatched region for a good chunk of Ohio. Wind potential, again, the hatched region indicates potential for wind gusts greater than 70 miles per hour. You can see that extends also back into Indiana and much of Ohio as well. Okay, so there's a very intense setup there for wind as well. Hail, significant hail possible with the supercells that develop in the environment that is within Ohio and eastern Indiana. Again, really kind of the bullseye area for severe weather coming tomorrow afternoon is going to be eastern Indiana and Ohio. We will be storm chasing tomorrow. So that is what's on the table for the setup. Let's take a look at the latest HRRR model. We may compare some other models too and take a look at exactly what's going to happen. So let's take a look at tonight first. Okay, you see a cluster of showers and thunderstorms ongoing across portions of southern Indiana at about 1 a.m. on Tuesday. Get a sounding out ahead of some of these as they make their way through. There is the sounding that does show tornado potential. You got low cloud bases, directional shear, and then also very strong speed shear. Cape values of around 800 to 900. Your SRH values are getting close to 250. Your photograph is presently showing that directional shear and speed shear as well, but there's a much nicer curvature would make it more favorable for stronger tornadoes. Right now, the strong tornado potential looks low, but there is tornado potential there. Storm motion will be will be relatively what you would expect with some of these storms as they make their way through. They won't be moving as fast as the storms that you would have coming tomorrow. So Progressing it forward, you can see the storms continue to make their way through portions of southern Ohio, southern Indiana. Those storms could contain severe weather associated with them as well, and then they'll make their way out by the time we get into around 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And then you can see, since there is not really too much going on the backside of this, that gives the potential for atmospheric recovery. Okay, recovery of the moisture content, recovery of the instability in the atmosphere, and with the push of a strong upper, mid, and low-level jet, you're going to have a favorable and a pretty fast recovery in this area of instability. So by the time we get to about, I'd say 1 p.m., you can see that there looks to be a little bit of convection firing across portions of this region. Let's freeze frame it right here at hour 24 and get a rough idea of what the severe weather dynamics look for this setup at this current point. You can see storms firing along that low across portions of Illinois. Get the surface-based CAPE reading here. You see CAPE values are getting somewhere close to 2,700, close to 3,000. That is above the threshold that we would need for severe thunderstorms, and that will continue to build north as that low continues to build to the northeast as well. In fact, let's actually fast forward it to around 20Z. You can see that the instability gradient makes its way all the way up into portions of western Ohio and central Indiana. Okay, so you can see that CAPE values will stick around the 2,000 region, right ahead of that cold front associated with that low pressure system, and then as that warm front lifts into the area, that instability continues to build its way in that direction. Your shear is going to be quite strong. You're going to have strong wind shear present with this. Okay, wind shear 60 to 70 knots, which is strong wind shear, I will say. Storm relativity values will be around 200 to 300. Basically, the threshold of storm relativity for tornadoes usually exceeds, I'd say, 100, 150. Threshold for strong tornadoes usually goes up to about 250 to 300. So we are in the threshold for that kind of setup for tornadoes at that given point. So something you're going to want to watch out for across portions of Indiana and Ohio. Your supercell composite values, again, pretty high. Supercell composite values of 24 are very decent values for a setup for supercell developments. And then also the significant tornado parameters are show a combination of kind of the necessary ingredients for a tornado, and those numbers are getting into the higher level values as well. So let's continue looking at this as it goes forward. You can see at about 3 p.m. In fact, I'm actually going to have to reload the... No, I don't want to do compare models. I got to reload the loop here. All right, so let's go back to 3 p.m. All right, so it's loading up. There's 3 p.m. right there, okay? So you can see that there are some supercells firing across portions of Indiana already as of 3 p.m. Get a sounding out with this one. PDS Tor sounding. PDS stands for particularly dangerous situation. That's basically an indication that the model is reading this as a dangerous situation for tornadoes, okay? So your CAPE values are close to 2,000 associated with that supercell that the models are currently depicting. You have low cloud bases here, very strong directional and speed shear, and you've got that curvature in that hodograph. Definitely a favorable environment, and these storms are going to be racing quickly over possibly 60 miles per hour. So they're going to be moving very quickly to the northeast. So again, keeping up with these storms is going to be difficult. You're going to have to just travel from cell to cell. Won't really be able to keep up with any as they move past. But you can see that these cells will continue to pop out ahead of the warm front and also just in this favorable environment. And then you can see that there are cells starting to develop along this cold front here. Okay, this is close to around 5 p.m. Okay, this cold front's starting to develop some supercells out ahead of it. Those will continue to evolve and develop, and as they do, we will start to see an increase in tornado potential. You get a sounding out ahead of these cells, okay? Again, another PDS Tor sounding, all right? So again, not really too much impeding the development of these storms. Low cloud bases, again, there's that strong directional speed shear that you have present. Good SRH, close to 300 to 400 in some spots. 3 CAPE values good, steep lapse rates. This setup is probably one of the more favorable setups for tornadoes that has been shown on the models within the past year or so. So this is a day to definitely be aware of the weather that is going on around you. Okay, we're probably only going to take a look at the HRRR at this point because I do want to get to some other information that might be beneficial for you with regards to this setup in Ohio. But many of the models are in agreement with these storms developing. So I'm kind of being a little bit aggressive with how I say things here because, again, if you guys remember what happened a couple weeks ago on March 14th up in Lakeview in Indian Lake, it's definitely something you don't want to mess around with these storms that have the potential to produce significant severe weather, including strong tornadoes. So that's kind of what is being shown based on the latest HRRR models. I didn't mean to load the tab 3 times, but with these storms coming through, I do want to make a mention of some safety tips with regards to tornadoes. Okay, this is from the American Red Cross. You can find this on their website. But again, a good thing to do before this setup occurs, definitely know where you need to go. Okay, so practice a tornado drill if you have a basement. The safest place is the interior room on the lowest floor of a building. That includes your basement. So if you get into a small room on the inner side, in the inner portions of your house, that's the best place to be during a tornado or during a tornado event. Or if you don't have a basement, still the interior room on the lowest floor of your house is the best place to be. If you're on the highway, do not go underneath an overpass. That is a myth. That is not a good place to be. If that overpass collapses, that will be significant impacts there. Find a way to receive alerts. We will be live storm chasing here on Great Lakes Weather, but you can also get info from a weather radio. You can get an app to download right from your phone. Just get something like that. Just make sure that you have a way to receive a alert if something like this happens, okay? And also, if you have some supplies in this innermost room, food, water, medicine, those types of things, a first aid kit, have those things available for you, okay? During a tornado, definitely keep watching those weather conditions. We'll be out storm chasing. I know there'll be several other guys that I know in the Great Lakes Storm Chasing Network that will be out chasing as well. So definitely something to closely monitor. Also, just seek safe shelter if you're in a tornado warning. It's definitely something you want to have available to you. Know where the safest place to go is. I kind of mentioned that already. And then after a tornado, if you happen to be impacted by a tornado, it's definitely good to avoid power lines, especially if there's power line damage. Don't enter damaged buildings. If you are the first on the scene, it is good to see if you can help someone out, but definitely make sure that where you are going to is a safe place. If there's someone trapped in a building, definitely call 911, but also try to communicate with them, see if they are okay. Okay, that's just something you want to keep in mind with safety. And then just be cautious during cleanup. I was out doing cleanup last week. We were being cautious with regards to handling trees out in the Indian Lake region and those different places. And also provide first aid if you can to others. Make sure that you have contact information of your neighbors. And it's just good to keep those things in mind for any type of severe weather setup, honestly. This one is just particularly looking more dangerous. So I'm kind of being a little bit informative with regards to this. But you can find this on Red Cross's website. You can go to redcross.org. Again, that's just something for you guys to look at. We will probably be, in terms of chase targets, either going down towards Marion once again, Marion, Indiana, or we will be starting up in Lima, Ohio, right next to that good road network that can help us keep up with these storms. So still a lot could change within the next several hours, but right now it's just something to be watchful for. Make sure to subscribe and stay updated. This is something that you're going to want to have good information on. So hopefully I am providing good information for you, but you can also find even better information going to the SPC's website. Check them out there, and also check out your local weather forecast office. Definitely keep those places in mind. All right. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there tomorrow, and we'll see you all later.